Hello, folks, and welcome to this New Jewish Narrative webinar. I'm Hadar Suskind, the president and CEO of New Jewish Narrative. In just a minute, I will introduce our wonderful guests. But before that, and you guys have all heard it before, I will take part in our time-honored Washington, D.C. tradition here of filibustering for a minute or two because it takes a moment for everyone to get into the Zoom room. So thank you all again for being here. Um, I'm really, I'm really excited for this conversation today. Some of you I know have maybe had the opportunity with us or with other colleagues to hear from Maoz and hear from Aziz before. Even if you have, there is more. There's always so much more. And for those of you who haven't, you are in for something special. And I will just say, but before I hit the formal introductions, which will come in a minute and not be all that formal, let's be honest. But you know, I will just say yet again, this is hard work that all of us do, whether it's our jobs or not. Being involved in this always, but especially these last years, has been difficult and is draining. And all of us have those days where we say, how do we keep doing this? And when I ask myself how I keep doing this, Aziz and Maoz, you are the answers to that question for me, because you guys are the inspirations that show a better possibility, show a better path. And it is what helps me. So I thank you both. With that, I will again welcome everyone to this webinar with New Jewish Narrative. I am going to introduce our esteemed guests. I have been lucky enough to know Aziz Abu Sarah for quite a few years now, originally from our work through Mejdi and coming on tours there. Maoz now for a few years as well. And like I said, the two of you, the work that you are doing, the book that you have written that we are about to talk about and learn more about, are really just inspiring for all of us. Some of the folks on, we still got people coming in. Some I know have heard from you a little bit before, but many folks probably have not. I want to ask you actually to start maybe with something from the book. Tell people, the book is called "The Future is Peace: A Shared Journey Across the Holy Land." We have shared it in all of the emails. Everybody, you should have gotten the
Uh-oh.
started reading it already, and it's quite remarkable. We will make sure to share that link again in all the follow-up emails. So if you don't have it, don't worry, you will still get it from us. So, gentlemen, thank you. Thank you for being here. Tell me about the book. Tell me about the new chapter, so to speak, of this work.
Aziz, you want to start?
I was banking on you starting, but I can't. I
Oh,
can. That's fine. All right. So, well, hello everyone. It's good to see you, and hello Hadar. Always happy to see you and connecting. And the book to us isn't a book only about Aziz and Maoz. Isn't a book about our work, but really is a book that we see it a book of the peace movement, a book of why the future is peace and how our collective work together, you, us, and everybody else, is gonna create that future. And so what we did, we kind of mixed multiple things within the story. It's our personal stories, our painful stories. Maoz is losing his parents, me losing my brother, and we do that. It's a journey. It's 8 day journey where we go physically to these places. We start in Maoz's home, and then the Gaza envelope. We talk about Gaza. We talk about October 7th, and then we move to Jaffa, and we talk about nationalism, Zionism, 1948, all of that, refugees, and then we go to Jerusalem, and we talk about the holy city of Jerusalem, and then go visit my family and introduce Moses to my family as he introduced me to his just a couple of days earlier. And then we go to the West Bank and we talk about the reality of life in the West Bank and the occupation, and what do Israelis know and not know about the West Bank, what kind of engagement, not engagement, military, what do you do with the issue of militarism? And then we go up to Galilee, and the story shift quite a bit as we moving on. And in Galilee, we go to Nazareth and talk about Maoz's experience there. and how he built the guest house he did in Fawzi Azar in a Palestinian city in Nazareth, and building relationship and how building bridges is possible, even by one person not only being accepted by the community, by even becoming one of the leaders of that community. And then we do the walk kind of from there to the Sea of Galilee. It's a trail that Maoz helped or was one of the co-founders of it, that visits kibbutzim, Palestinian villages that were destroyed in 1948, historical sites. And so the book is our stories, is mythical stories of the land, biblical stories of the land, Muslim, Jewish, and Christian, and others as well. It's the political reality, it's the conflict, the 100 years of conflict, and it's also how we're gonna change that reality. And it's kind of bringing all of these things together. And I promise, I know it's biased because it's me saying it and I helped co-author the book. It's really well written and it's worth reading. And I'm practicing now for the audiobook. And every time I read my part for the audiobook, I'm like, damn, we did a good job.
I strongly agree for what it's worth. But also,
So
I think you should consider having Barack Obama read the book. Just saying. Yeah.
if he calls by tomorrow, and you know what, even after I record, if he calls and says he would be happy to read it, we'll let him read it.
All
That's
right.
fine.
Or,
We'll
or
compromise. Maoz, you want
Maoz.
to add
Yeah,
anything that left
yeah.
out?
So first, it's a great honor to be here with the new Jewish narrative and with you, Adar. I think for the second time, and I'm sure there will be many more, because like Aziz said, our collective work and efforts to create a reality of peace is essential. So again, thank you for your partnership. Thank you for everyone being here on these webinars and for your ongoing support. So the last 2 years, though it's the most devastating years, and for me personally, in losing my both parents, but for all the people living in this region, it's the most two devastating years of our lifetime. It's also been a year of growth, of spiritual transformation and and gaining new knowledge in fields I never thought are even existing. And a lot of it is thanks to my shared work with Aziz and with many others. Some of them are also here in the webinar, and of course you too, Adar. And we put all of it in the book. We just The Future is Peace. We co-authored together, that will be published in April 14th with Crown Publishing House. And I would like to read a section
Please.
uh, from the third chapter, as we are visiting Aziz's childhood home at El Azaria, and as we are meeting, I'm for the first time I'm meeting Aziz's parents and sister and brothers and sister-in-law, and we are sitting in the living room that is now abandoned. They don't, Aziz family doesn't live there, but also we are going to the Aziz childhood room where his brother Taisir was taken by the Israeli soldiers at nighttime. And on the wall of the living room, there is the photo of Taisir when he was a beautiful, charming young guy at the age of 18, I think, from the photo. So I want to share a reflection I had while we were visiting Aziz's childhood home. So, okay, I was 8 years old, almost the same age as Taisir would have been when my family's oops child was born. I had three sisters, and from the moment my parents told us they were having another baby, I wished for a little brother. We, the four siblings, made a deal with my parents that if the baby was a girl, my mother and sisters would get to choose her name. And if it was a boy, my father and I would name him. I will never forget the day my auntie Rit, my father's younger sister, came to tell us that our mother had given birth to a boy. I cried tears of joy. Looking up at the portrait of Taysir that was taken just days before he died, I knew in my heart that he had felt the same on the day Aziz was born. Taysir had looked for his little brother the way I'd always looked out for Magen, my brother. I knew how proud he would have been of the man Aziz had become. I turned to my friend and said, Aziz, the day you were born was the happiest day of Taysir's life, and he was proud of you till the day he died and beyond.
Thank you for sharing that, Maoz.
Thank you, Maoz.
Thank you for sharing all of that.
And I will add that through the physical journey that Aziz and I took on September 24th, we learned so much, not just about each other and about Israel Palestinian conflict and history and mythology and theology. I learned mostly about myself. And this is what the book will do to you too. You would learn about humanity, about Israel and about Palestine, but you will also learn about yourself. So,
Yeah.
and this is also the feedback and reaction we are getting from all those who already read the book. So, thank you for giving me the possibility to share with you. Thanks.
Can I just as Maoz read this, I thought I'll read something also that's I think tells a little bit about what we both how we both came to this relationship. And one of our argument in the book is one of the things missing perhaps in today's approach to each other is the lack of empathy people have developed for each other. We know in the States there are some famous people who talked about how empathy is a weakness in the world, and we see it the exact opposite, is that empathy is a strength. And so during the first chapter, I talk about Maoz's parents and how they've been killed and reaching out to Maoz and the decision to do that and the decision to reach out and saying, I empathize with you, I share in your pain, I share in your suffering, and I stand against these people who have killed your parents. But I also share that it's not the first time I've done it. And I think the powerful thing about empathy, it's like everything else, it's a muscle. I think peacemaking is a muscle, empathy is a muscle, and you don't have to be so good at it. You keep practicing it until you become better at it. And at about 10 years earlier, I did this kind of the reach out to somebody you don't know or you don't know well. In that case, it was somebody I didn't know at all. Um, and sent a letter that basically talked about me feeling empathy for them and wanting to send condolences. And it was in Jerusalem after a Palestinian from East Jerusalem killed four, if my memory is right, four people in a synagogue. And I decided to send this letter to them, knowing that the likelihood, and that's a important thing about empathy and about doing this peace work, the likelihood you're not going to get a response, and that's okay. And so when I reach out to Maoz, I assumed I will not get a response. But I'm going to send a letter I've sent 10 years ago to these widows of the men who were killed. And it said, we have never met, but I'm writing this letter to let you know that across the street in East Jerusalem, someone knows what you are going through. Someone else is devastated, hoping no one else will ever have to suffer through such a loss. Our humanity is the one thing that we have to hold onto. I know this well because my brother was killed when I was 10. I know the pain and the anger, the emptiness and the unanswered questions. How it feels when the knock on the door or the phone call confirms your greatest fear. You hope they are wrong, and there has been so many mistakes, and there has been some mistake. For a time, all eyes are on you. Then, after a week or two, everyone else goes back to life as normal, but you can never go back to that. The conflict is claiming the lives of our loved ones before their time. but we must not let it claim our souls. I will keep praying that the days described by the prophet Isaiah, when nation will not take up sword against nation, nor they will train for war anymore, are not far off. It seems an impossible prayer in such circumstances, but sometimes hope and faith are the best acts of resistance we can offer. I'm so sorry I cannot offer you more, but know that you at least have my heart. And I think in the book, both of us have decided to work on and to write. This is a spirit we wrote it in. Is there is many things we cannot control around us, many things, but there are things that we can control, and there are decisions that are in our hands to take. And so what Maoz and I have done in the last 2 years, and I think others with us in the movement, is say, instead of focusing on what we can't, we need to focus on what we can. We need to focus on the impact that we can have. We need to focus on the stories that we need to share. We need to focus on that empathy. We need to focus on saving lives. And especially today, where people believe, oh, there was a ceasefire, now we can rest. And, for those of us who really follow what's happening, we know that ceasefire is kind of ceasefire by name only. Definitely, if you're in Gaza, this is a reality you live through, or in the West Bank. So we don't want people to take that comfort of saying, oh, it's all done, it's all good, we can afford to now relax. This is the time to work harder and to continue doing everything we can to create that change.
Thank you both again. I have questions, but I want to start with something that's more a statement. I just want to say I love the two of you, and I love what you're doing and what you represent and the message you are bringing out into the world. When I first started engaging politically as a teen, as a young adult, I was told all the time that you had to be on one side, right? You were either on the Israeli side or you were on the Palestinian side. And it took me a lot of time and a lot of life experience to understand both that was a totally false narrative, but also that it's really a trap, that it's a trap to capture each of us, capture ourselves, our communities, right, in this narrative that just perpetuates conflict. And it's a trap because there are unfortunately still people out there that don't want to see the community that can be built and the power that can be built through partnership, particularly of Israelis and Palestinians. Before we sort of get into more details about the book and some of the other work, I just want to ask you guys to sort of respond to this idea of the power of that partnership. We heard a little bit from you how you got into it, like the specific action, but why this? How does the potential for amplifying and growing this power of your collective voice keep you moving forward in what you're doing? And before you start to get into that, I will apologize that I forgot to remind everybody at the beginning to use the Q&A function to ask questions, not the raise hand, not the chat, not anything else. But if you have questions for Maoz and Aziz, you can type them into the Q&A and we will try to get to them.
So for me, this partnership, which become into a brotherhood, which you also share in the book, is part of my personal healing. I realized that I won't be able to heal myself unless I partner, dialogue, build friendship and relationship with Palestinians. And it's actually an understanding or a conclusion I reached about 20 years ago. After I was born and raised in Israel, lived all my life, starting in a small kibbutz a mile away from Gaza, and then we got even closer, 200 meters from the border. And at the age of 30, I suddenly realized that I already traveled around the world. I know about indigenous communities in New Zealand, Australia, Asia, South America, but I had no idea and what's the difference between Eid al-Adha, Eid al-Fitr, and Ramadan. I didn't know where Jesus was born, where he's buried, and never heard about the Annunciation. So I realized I was living within physical and mental walls of ignorance. And when there is ignorance, there is fear. Where there is fear, there is hate. And unfortunately, mankind, when we hate someone, we can do horrible things to him. So about 20 years ago, I realized that I must open gates within those walls and start building bridges. And that's like what Aziz shared. I opened a guest house more than 20 years ago in Nazareth, the largest Palestinian city within Israel. And I start building relationship and partnership and start to know the Palestinian narrative in its most profound and deepest way, from the suffering, the challenges, the pain, the loss, but also dreams and aspiration. And I learned that the first step in reaching a shared society that will overcome the division, Adar, you just shared, and the polarization you just shared, the first step to overcome this division is by knowing the other side narrative. We don't necessarily need to agree or to accept, but just to know that there is another narrative that exists and lives next to us or within us in our community, our streets, our land. So that's something I learned and I practiced and I lived based upon for the last few years. It was clear to me after losing that the only way for healing, a personal healing, but also a collective healing, can only be through partners with Palestinians. But this partnership cannot, it's not a phrase, it's not a value or something, a statement you put on the wall, on the fridge, or on a status on social media. Something you need to model, something you need to live within this partnership. And I was lucky. I was lucky and fortunate that when I was drowning in the ocean of sorrow and pain, in the days and weeks after losing my parents, Aziz reached out to me. Aziz reached out, and it was a hand saving me from drowning. And again, I'm saying it now. I said it before. I'll say it in the future. It's I'm grateful. I'm thankful, and I'm honored to call Aziz a brother.
Yeah. I'll only add that this concept of brotherhood, Maoz and I keep saying, was introduced to us by Pope Francis when we met him. We called each other partners, colleagues, friends, all of that until we met with Pope Francis in Verona, and he heard us tell our story, and he decided this is not a partnership or a friendship, it's a brotherhood. And so we took it from him from that on. And we often like to joke that in Catholicism, marriage is an everlasting thing. So I guess brotherhood as well. And so we've been Catholically bound together for the whole life. But I think what makes
That's a pretty good name drop, Aziz. I mean,
yeah,
you're going to do it.
is. And for those who read the book, they'll see the first page you open, you'll see Pope Francis words are there. Exactly these words. But I think the thing that brings us together is our vision, our dream, and our mission. That's what makes us able to do this work together. It's too often the focus is on identity. Are you Israeli? Are you Palestinian? Like you mentioned, are you Jewish? Are you Muslim? Are you Christian? Are you? And there's so many dividing points based on things that many of them we can't even control. Your nationality and your passport and where you were born and to a Muslim or a Christian or Jewish family, a lot of that is set before you even opened your eyes to this world. What we can decide is what vision and what dream do we have for the world we live in, and what am I going to do about it? What are the values I live by? Are they values based on equality and justice and dignity and safety for all? Or are they values about supremacy? Or are they values that says I'm better than you because of whatever of those things that we didn't even decide ourselves? And so what brought us together is the dream to have peace, to have a lasting agreement, an equitable, just peace agreement between Israelis and Palestinians, and the values that The two of us are equal, and our peoples are equal. And the life of a Palestinian, the life of an Israeli are equal to each other. There is no difference between an Israeli child and a Palestinian child, an Israeli elder person or a Palestinian elder person. There is no there's no favoritism in how we see things. And so we often say if people want to divide us, they should not divide us as Israeli versus Palestinian, but as those who believe in justice and equality and peace, and those who don't yet. And that's I think that's the vision we have.
Aziz, you're yet at the end of that. You just said a lot of really good, really important things, but the thing that just hit me is the yet, right? Because even for me, as somebody who does this work and is day in and day out, I don't always remember to hold the yet in my heart, right? Sometimes I think like you could have ended that sentence before you're saying that. The division is between those who are striving for peace and equality for justice and those who aren't. And sometimes I live in that space, and your
Right?
yet for me
You
is
know
very
why
present.
I say that yet? Because I was one of those. So I know the yet very well because I grew up thinking peace work is nonsense. I grew up with the anger of losing my brother. I grew up with also people around me who didn't believe in this kind of efforts that we are doing. And so if I don't say that yet, it means I don't believe in my own transformation. I don't believe in my own change of heart. And having gone through it myself makes it much easier for me to know if I've gone through it and I know how angry I was, then I know others can go through it as well.
Yeah, also, the yet is an invitation. It's an invitation to those who don't agree with us to come and join us. And we also see it, not just with Aziz example, we see it like I was among the first, maybe first five Israelis after October 7 to say publicly we should not wage war over Gaza. The hostages, if we want them back live, we need to negotiate on their release, and we should not wage war, definitely not war of revenge. And everyone said, Maoz, what you are saying is nonsense. How we will take Hamas over the control. Hamas will stay in control in Gaza, and there will be no closure. I said, and of course it was proven to be right. And many of those who are arguing against me back then join us now. They are part of the movement. And it's also very important to say the Palestinian-Israeli peace movement is growing. We are gaining momentum. Maybe you don't hear about it enough. Maybe we are silenced. Maybe we are oppressed. Maybe we are quiet, too quiet. But we are growing, and there is a huge demand for our messages in schools, in communities, in Palestine, in Israel, gap year program, universities. I'm running around the clock for one meeting to another meeting to another meeting, and we are also among the leaders and the organizer of the second People Peace Summit that this time will take place in Tel Aviv in April 30th, the biggest convention center, I believe, in Israel. We are expecting 1,000, if not more, participants, Palestinian Israelis. It's going to be a huge event. Part of it will be also broadcast in live. I actually recommend you to come. It's going to be such a injection of hope to everyone that will participate, and a call for action that will just come for himself by itself. Just come, and the call for action will come from within you. So we are growing, we are gaining momentum, and many of those who were yet now they are with us, and the other will join.
So I want to pick up on what you were just talking about, Maoz, because I think for many of us here in the United States, people do feel like we're the minority, right? You know, we're not our views are certainly not in power, not among Israelis or Palestinians or Americans. And even within the American Jewish community, the largest, most dominant voices obviously are not sharing our views. But what both of you were talking about this conference, about other things, as a tool for people to understand how the peace movement is growing, one of the most exciting ones we have for that right now is you guys and your book. And the book is telling your story, and I think it's important that people understand the story, but it also is an opportunity to bring more people into the conversation. Some who are already on our side and some who are the yets, right? So tell me how are you using the book and this opportunity uh, to help do that, to bring more people in?
Yeah.
So
Uh,
Whichever one of you wants to start.
we both like to speak, Adar. You haven't got that yet, so
Uh, there's multiple ways. One, we wrote this book as a story more than just as information. So people who might not feel comfortable yet with some of the things we're sharing will be willing to read it because it's a story. And so that's one aspect. But the second, by writing it together, and this is really a fascinating thing because I talked to our publisher. I remember when we sent through our agent, we then sent the proposal, and they said they got many proposal about peace writing, Israelis, Palestinians, but they didn't get almost at all by two people together, by an Israeli and a Palestinian. And you know this, Maoz, from not Maoz, you know this, Hadar, from the tours we've run together, is having an Israeli and a Palestinian working together, having multiple narratives at the same time, makes those who are not willing to listen feel more willing to listen. So those who see themselves as pro-Israel, they might read the book because Maoz's voice is there. And those who are pro-Palestinian might read the book because my voice is there. We bring the story of our people. We don't hide anything. It's not only, oh, here's peace and here's how you do it. We also talk about a little bit of history. History where our stories don't go together, where there's a disagreement about what happened in the past. There might be a disagreement of what's happening now. Oz and I agree on 90+% of stuff, but we bring also the stories of our own people and how we perceive Palestinian national movement, the Jewish national movement, and Zionism, current realities we're living through. How do different people perceive it? And so those who disagree with us will feel that their concerns, hopefully, or what they think, what they already know is already there. But it's funny thing that people want to still be represented, even if they already know it. They want it to be written, they want it to be shared, like on the tours, and that invites more people to listen to us. So we're challenging everyone who's reading, because if you're coming from a pro-Palestinian point of view or pro-Israeli point of view, you're gonna hear stuff you have not heard before. And the goal is to move you eventually towards saying, what is the future for me? What can I do next? I might not agree with you on what happened 80 years ago. Fine. I prefer we don't argue about that, and rather we talk about if we can agree on where we can move next. That's better than us arguing. And maybe there is a place for arguing, but we can do that later. First, let's say, what can we do to change reality today and to change the future? And that's kind of what the book does. It brings those different narratives together and then says, okay, we might disagree, but let's also think about the future.
Well, I mean, that's literally the title, right? The future is peace. And it's one of the things I think is so important from the book and from the work that you guys do is any of us who've ever had a conversation with anyone, friends, family, organizations, people we agree with, disagree with on Israel-Palestine issues, know that you inevitably get pulled into that backward-looking argument. Into, well, this happened, the Israeli government did this, but Hamas did this, but Yasser Arafat, blah, 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 the Hebron riots in 1920, blah, blah, and next thing you know, we're in the Bible, right? Because people love to have those backward-looking arguments to try to justify their current positions. Who has rights to the land? Who's indigenous? Who's this? Who's all these other things? And like you said, I mean, there's a space for history in those discussions, but so often those are used to shut down the forward-looking view. And what you guys are offering and what you are bringing out to the world is that future and looking
If
at emphasis on the future and peace.
if Maoz would allow me, I'd read something he wrote in the book.
okay, Dave, yes, of course. You are
So in the Nazareth chapter, day 7 of the Towards an 8 Day. He writes, deep down, he talks about him going to Nazareth and why it was important for him to go to Nazareth and the whole narratives that he was told about why he shouldn't go there and all the things that scared him about going there. So he writes, deep down, I knew this was exactly why I needed to be there. To challenge the stories with all being handed down about each other, to stand in the tension between what I'd been told to fear and what I still hope was possible, to carry the cost of not quite fitting in, because sometimes that is the price of trying to build something different. When you have a bigger goal, a deeper meaning, a grander dream, you become capable of overcoming things you once thought were immovable. And I think that kind of summarizes, Hadar, what you were sharing. This is exactly the vision we want and we sharing in the book and in our work in general.
Yeah, and we are not erasing our separated past. Okay, we are not erasing it, and but we say we should not let our past define our future. So if we were separated in the past, yes, we were, and yes, we are, but we still can find a common ground and shared values to base our shared future upon. So we are concentrating much more. We are not in a debate or argument. We are not here to win this word or this term over the other. We acknowledge that you can define or call historical event in different names, but what we focus on is to build a shared future. And that's where also we go deep into the human, our personal mind and lessons and teaching about forgiveness, about reconciliation. We learn through the book. We learn from other places around the world, conflict areas like North Ireland, like Rwanda. We teach ourselves as we do our 8 day journey across the Holy Land. We teach ourselves from different conflict zones around the world, and we take those lessons and we implement them in our shared journey. And then it's not becoming only the shared journey of Aziz and Maoz, and not only the shared journey of Israelis and Palestinians, it becomes the shared journey of humanity. And this is why we wrote the book, not just for those who identify themselves as pro-Israel or pro-Palestinian, or those who care. The book is for everyone. The book is providing a roadmap to bridge over the divide, how we can fix the broken reality we all live within, how we can transform despair into hope, revenge, hate, fear into reconciliation, partnership, acknowledgement, and how we can transform trauma and pain and loss into healing. So the book is a roadmap, not just for those who live, who care about Israel Palestine, but to all those who care about humanity.
One of the things I think is so both powerful and fascinating about it is that it is human, right? It is beyond just Israel, Palestine, and that conflict and those things, and I think speaks to a universal nature that way. But also, I think, you guys can tell me if I'm wrong, probably for the people who are most connected to this, most engaged in this, it's the most challenging because they can't just look at it as the universal. It is the individual. It is their lives, their parents, their brothers, etc. And one of the questions that somebody put in the chat here, but sort of comes up in this conversation a lot, is basically the question of like, how do you deal with, the majorities in both Palestinian and Israeli communities who are resisting politically, sociologically, the reconciliation and the recognition of shared humanity that is at the center of what you're doing. How do you deal with that resistance and try to help move them forward?
I will give the short answer, and then Aziz, maybe you can add on that. Majority and minority is very flexible. Okay, if we're the majority now, it doesn't, it only means that we can become the majority. And it go back definitely in the, in the Zionist movement. Herzl started on his own. And he was the minority. He came to all the Jewish leaders at the time, and no one wanted to support or endorse his vision to create a homeland to the Jewish people in the Holy Land. So he was the minority, but he had a big dream. He wasn't shy or coward to share it and to work to make it into a reality. And it also goes to the public opinion in Israel after October War in 1973. The war hero Moshe Dayan said, he was the security minister of security and defense, said, it's better to have Sinai Peninsula without peace than peace without Sinai Peninsula. And Golda Meir, the prime minister at the time, said there will be no peace in our lifetime. In our lifetime. And 4 years after the war, there was a poll within the Israeli Jewish society that 72% were against negotiation, not against land swap, not against peace treaty, against negotiation, stating Egypt only want to erase the existence of the state of Israel. And a week after, Anwar Sadat wasn't a peacemaker. He was the president of Egypt who waged the surprise war over Israel only in 73. And 4 years after he's coming in historical visit to visit Israel. And children of Israel waiting for him in the street of Be'er Sheva, Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, and Haifa with two flags in their hands. The flag of Israel, of course, and the flag of Israel's biggest enemy till the day before of Egypt. And immediately the minority became the majority. And 2 years after, peace treaties were signed, securing for the first time for the state of Israel a secure and safe border. And that's all. That's the only way to reach security and safety, through negotiation, through dialogue, through compromise. And unfortunately, we forgot this lesson and forgot this legacy. So we need, but those are the shoulders we are standing on. Okay, we are standing on the shoulder of histories that proved again and again and all the time that war never brings security, war never defend, and bombs never bring quiet. Only diplomacy and negotiation. So what if you're the minority now? If we'll work together, and we also have a roadmap and 5 steps plan how to make a dream into a reality, we're gonna fulfill our dream and to create a future of peace in the near future.
Maoz, I think that was a long answer, not the
Yes,
short.
sorry, Aziz, you know me. I just
Okay, it's good. It's good.
I grabbed it from you, and now you can.
I'll only
Wait,
add.
Aziz, hold on. Before you add your long answer, which I'm eager to hear.
Mine is short.
Sure. Before you add, I just want a couple quick pieces. So, people had asked about the book. We shared the link to pre-order in the chat. You can also find it on our website, or you can just Google them and find it. And as well as the question about the audiobook, which you said will be available in April and can also be ordered. There is a question here that I don't know the answer to, which is it going to be available in Arabic and Hebrew?
Yes, but not in April. It will take probably about a year for that to happen, for that translation, for us to get the funding possible to get it translated and to get it get it done. We already have people who will do the translation. We're just working on the financial elements of that. It's a bit more complicated than in the States to get it done. So it's something we have to fund it. Not, unfortunately, not a publisher will fund that. So, but yes, it absolutely will be in Arabic and Hebrew. I will also add, I know a lot of people like to wait until the book is out to pre-order or to order it. And our appeal is for people to pre-order it because that's how we build the momentum. And usually bookstores, people who would invite us, I saw a couple of people mention, are you coming to California? Are you coming to this place, that place? pre-orders determine whether bookshops, bookstores around the country would invite us to come and do events or not. Because if there's a strong momentum and there are thousands of copies ordered before even the book is out, we'll be able to do so much more. And it sends a message also to media, it sends a message to the bookstores, it sends a message to the whole industry that books like this shouldn't be the only, and books like this needs to be
Yeah.
supported because they can work and they can be sold, and people are hungry and thirsty for these kind of
And,
materials.
and as this, if forgive me to jump in, it also sends a message very clear and loud to policymaker and the world that it's time for peace. This is exactly what the book is. It's sending. It's a message. It's a
Yeah.
call. It's an action. It's an action for peace.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Maoz, I didn't think about this, but maybe we should ask people to start pre-order it to their favorite politician,
I
or
like it.
to their
Yeah,
leader.
let's do it.
Um, we're going to do that. Just for the
Okay.
record, that's fabulous. We're going to talk about this afterward, and we're definitely doing that. My
Thank
team
you.
who are all on are going, okay, wait, how are we going to do this? But we're going to do it because that's a great idea. I wanted just to add to that also that, again, I'm grateful for you guys. You're going to be here in DC. We're doing something together, an interfaith event coming up with Muslim Public Affairs Committee also. And as you're going, we've got some New York things planned. And if you are going to be in California, if you are going to be other places, we are definitely here, ready and happy to partner with you and work with you however we can to help elevate your voices, help elevate the story in this book and this work because, it's
Yeah.
incredible. Tell me, maybe Aziz will come back to you now. Maoz, in his very short answer there, talked about, the five-step plan that you guys have in here. Maybe you want to talk about that a little bit and share with folks.
Usually Maoz likes to talk about that, but
Oh, I mean,
sorry,
you can hand
sorry,
it back if you want, whatever you guys want
no,
to do.
no, that's fine. Sorry, Maoz. We've already outlined some of it, and maybe I'll add what I wanted to say through it.
Please.
It's to have a dream, to amplify that dream. Or Maoz, I'm doing the roadmap instead,
It's
which
okay. I will fix you. I will fix.
sure. It's to amplify that voice, is to create a legitimacy to that vision and that peace. And you create a legitimacy through what we're doing right now. Even what you just mentioned, Hadar, is sending the book to politicians, sending it to community leaders, telling them you need to read this, you need to understand what's happening. There are elements you're not aware of. It creates a legitimacy. Though, I name dropped the Pope earlier, but that happened because a journalist met with us and met with Maoz and asked, "What can I do?" And he said, "Well, if you can make us meet Pope Francis." And 3 weeks later, we already met him. That's what the moment you start asking people to create that legitimacy, and you might wonder, okay, well, it was nice, but what did that help? It helped a lot. It helped us get into places we would never have been to, but also it also helped create policy change. When we met Pope Francis, we gave him a letter to the G7, which was meeting only a couple of weeks later in Italy. And he got the G7 to adopt that letter as part of their official communique, which in it was a support for the first time, the G7 supporting the peace movement and the work we are doing. And that happened because of a meeting with Pope Francis. That's how legitimacy worked. And I think often we don't think of connecting these lines together. And then we need to push for change of reality on the ground, a change of, one, pushing our politicians to change our investment from in weapons to being in peacemaking, which is right now the US government, for example, spends zero money on peacemaking and billions and billions and billions on weapons. And finally, changing reality on the ground. And that takes me to your earlier question about how do you do that? And I think one of the terminologies that's important we start using is that we co-resist together. We and by resist here, it's the existence we're talking about, coexistence and co-resistance can go together. So actions that I have not seen before in at least the way it's happening today give me a lot of hope as well. For example, when the Jerusalem Day happened in the last 2 years now, when you have activists, Israelis and Palestinian citizens of Israel showing up to Jerusalem as people marching through chanting death to Arabs. I grew up hearing that and nobody challenged it. Nobody that I could see challenged it. And now you have activists who are going and creating protecting presence in Jerusalem, making first bringing a different voice and making sure these people are not vandalizing shops, not attacking people, and doing what the government should have been doing. But as we know, the current government doesn't care. So we take responsibility. That in itself creates a change on the ground. And I think this is one thing we can learn from the radical groups in the region is they work to create the change on the ground, regardless of what governments agreed and didn't agree with them. We can do that. We can create change on the ground, positive change. This year, thousands of people showed up to the olive harvest in the West Bank. Next year, let's make sure it's instead 1, 2, 3,000. Let's make sure it's 50,000. Let's make sure it's 100,000. I'm having a phone call this week where Interact, a couple other organizations, Majdi will join together and encourage people to go and maybe build a program even to take as many people from the States, from Europe, from everywhere to go and to do olive picking and the olive harvest. It's a small step. Yes, I agree. But can you imagine if 100,000 people show up? What will that do? We have more than, we keep saying we are a minority, but we're not that much of a minority. Being a minority is also in one's head. And you become a majority when you start acting like one and you're saying, okay, I'm going to show up. It's going to take 3, 4 days, 5 days. Let's get Israelis, let's get Palestinian citizens of Israel, let's people from East Jerusalem, let's get people from the States, let's get Jewish Americans, let's get Christian Americans. All those who speaking about peace is easy. Let's also do something. And there are, you don't, this is not the only action, but I think those kind of actions create symbolism as well. And there's something powerful about symbolism. When Palestinians seeing thousands of Israelis, thousands of Jews coming to help them pick olives and protect them from the settlers, it breaks down the they are this, they are that. When Israelis see people like Maoz and I working together, it breaks that stigma that, oh, all Palestinians hate us. I mean, we walk into classrooms in Israel and I hear students tell me, you're the only Palestinian we've ever talked to. And they surprised I can speak fluent Hebrew. They surprised I am not telling them I want all of them dead and I want them all to leave the country. And they've never heard that because that's not the narrative that's common. So we need to create those symbolisms of us doing stuff together. And it must be big enough that we force even media, we force the coverage, we force the story to be so prominent that it changes the people who are watching it.
Yes.
Amen.
I have a different question for you that is honestly my question, and it's maybe a little bit annoying because it's a little, I think it's a little outside of the stuff I always like you regularly talk about. Uh, there are supposedly, unless things go even more off the rails, going to be elections in Israel this year. There's also just been a statement from Mahmoud Abbas about Palestinian elections and how there should be Palestinian elections soon. Yeah, I mean, we're all kind of going like this. That's been a minute, but he didn't have to say it, and he did, so maybe there will be. My impression of your work, so I'm not gonna say the work that you guys do, but my impression of your work is that it is, not focused on the electoral political. It's on a much higher, broader level. But the changes that we all want to see ultimately, at the end of the day, need to impact the electoral and the political. And so I guess what I'm asking you guys is, have you been or do you anticipate trying to raise your voice and share your message in the context of Israeli and maybe Palestinian elections this year?
Maoz likes to take
Yeah,
annoying questions, so
That's
I'll let
cool.
I can take it.
He gets the annoying ones. Awesome.
So the fifth chapter in the roadmap is to create the political will. And I'll try. I went through the Q&A now while Aziz was speaking. I went through the Q&A. So to create the political will to choose peace over war. not to prepare to the next war, but to prevent it, to start dream of a new with a new political imagination that we are not doomed to everlasting war, but we can and will and are making peace. So we need to create this political will. So it doesn't happen in one day, and we use sandwich approach. First, we are working on the ground with civil society organization and individual, both in Palestine and Israel, to create a framework, to build bridges, to open gates, a dialogue group, a reconciliation group, and again there is a humanitarian aid. So every day there are multi-peace events happening, multi-peace events happening every day in Israel and Palestine. So it's, yes, maybe we are not loud enough or we are silenced, but they are happening, and we are there to witness. So we can promise and vouch that it's happening, and it's just growing and more and more. On the other approach is the international pressure. We must call for international intervention to support the civil society within Israel and Palestine and to support peace. And this is exactly the word and the message Pope Francis took from us in the Arena de Pacha, and he came with our papers to the G7 leaders meeting in Italy in summer 2024, and he convinced the leaders, after the peace movement tried to achieve that maybe a decade and more, they adopted our words word by word in their official communique, and now slowly, way too slowly, they are start making it into policies. So the EU already created a fund, international fund, European fund for the civil society. Next month we're gonna be in London. They're gonna create the UK fund for civil society. So our words to Pope Francis and uh, uh, his the way he supported our mission and already starts bringing fruits. So international, and also with the fake, totally fake ceasefire. It's a fake ceasefire. The war is still waging and going on. But who could believe in the beginning of September that there will be no hostages, dead or alive, in Gaza? No one could believe it. It could consider insane. The Hamas would never give these assets, okay, the live or dead hostages. And through political pressure, the US over the extremist Israeli government, and Qatar, Turkey and Egypt over Hamas, and it's done. So we need to continue with this political international pressure over the extremists in both sides to compromise, even though it's against their nature. And we need to continue to build a political will to sit in a room, a negotiation room. And like we also write in the book, this room must be equal, gender equal room, because it raises nearly by 40% the chance for the negotiation to be fruitful and to peace to last. Exactly the opposite of what is now called the peace board. There are no women there. There are no peacemakers. There are no reconciliation experts. There are no faith leaders, spiritual leader, educator. So the chances for it to succeed is minimal, if there is any. So we need to also to change the peace board, but it won't happen without a political pressure and demand. And then there will be, this room will be assembly, and then they will sit, and there are many solutions on the table. And I'm quoting from the QA. There is a Lands for All, Geneva Initiative, Trump plans, Arab League initiatives, Confederation, two state, one state. All those offers and possibilities will be negotiated, and then this room will choose one. I think we need to be in the room. Adar, when I say we, I'm including you, of course. We need to be in this room.
Yeah.
And then our work will start. We must invest in peace and reconciliation. It's not a one-time event that we cut the ribbon, getting someone will get Nobel Prize. If we won't invest in peace and reconciliation, it won't last. So this is exactly the road ahead. But we know it. We know what the road ahead, and we are working on it already, and we're gonna reach there.
Maoz, thank you. Aziz, thank you. We are all.
Adar, next time 2 hours, please.
I was gonna say we are all walking behind you on this road.
But I'm
I'm
saying
trying
next
to
time 2 hours.
answer. I was trying
I
to
know, I
answer
saw
exactly.
Aziz. I want to really thank you guys for being with us today, but also for writing this book, for doing this work, for all of your leadership, for all of your partnership. Again, the book is The Future is Peace. You can pre-order it now. I urge everybody to do it. I urge folks to reach out to their bookstores, their libraries. I urge folks, when you get the email for us that says make a donation here, to send a copy of the book to your elected official, that you do that. I am just deeply grateful to both of you for your modeling of peace and love and humanity. Thank you, everyone, for being with us today. Again, we will be sharing the recording so you can share it far and wide. And we'll see you all again another time soon.
Thank you, everyone. Bye. See you next time. See you
Thank you,
soon.
Hadar.